At least the Milden Hall boys have got something to cheer about this weekend, because they're going to be awfully upset tomorrow.
But here's a bit more, Greg. Let's play this. Come on, play.
Luke Muff, is it?
Luke Muffin off yellow.
Gate 4. So, there's nothing a given in this one, but you can bet your bottom dollar the box office player will be doing absolutely everything to throw the proverbial at the Venn Tiger Man, should he need it.
Yeah, it's we've been treated to some fantastic action here tonight.
We really have.
And National League Speedway, it's pretty bloody entertaining.
It really is, and you only hope from a Bullets perspective that Greg's dug deep into his toolbox, reached out and found a start out of somewhere and can just rip Snort away from the start, get his wheels in line. But we're about to find out in this one, James. Rev's going high, Star Marshal away, tapes rise. Who's made the best fist of it? It's Alex Spooner and white, but Ben Rathbone on the inside's made a brilliant start. Curry block the move of Alex Spooner, and here comes box office as well.
Yeah, Ben Rathbone making a rip snorting start there, getting the better of Alex Spooner, and Greg Blair in third place at the moment. A 4-2 of the Bullets as things stand at the moment, but you just know that Greg Blair's going to throw absolutely everything that he has at Alex Spooner. Here comes Greg Blair going for the big pass.
There for Blair.
Not quite getting there. Alex Spooner hangs on into second place. Here it comes again, rounds bend 1 and 2. 2 laps to go.
There's Blair coming to the inside. Can he make it work on the corner? He's done him.
Bullets on a 5-1, which means if it stays like this, or at least the worst they can do is a draw tonight. Absolute crucial.
My goodness.
Blair all out of shape. What on earth are you doing, Greg Blair? But Ben Rathbone out in front, looking so fast and so stylish. And if it stays like this, he's going to be the man of the match for me tonight. Ben Rathbone's been absolutely tremendous.
Bucking and rearing all over the shop, managing to stay on the bicycle.
High, wide and handsome indeed is Greg Blair.
Yes. Ben Rathbone stealing a march.
Yeah, Ben Rathbone. Reserve switch. What an astute bit of team management that was.
It really was. And hats off to him. He made a brilliant start, rode a clever first and second bend. And, well, you said it before the race, if there was a man that you needed to do the business when it mattered, it was box office, and he duly delivered. He was more out of shape than Zebedee at times, but he done the business, and I would say that he's pretty chuffed with that one.
I don't know.
Absolutely buzzing.
Does he look chuffed to you?
Just a bit. And the T-sider, Ben Rathbone behind him.
I tell you, for me tonight, Ben Rathbone's been man of the match for me tonight.
I can't go against that, you know. And of course, one race to go.
Crucial.
The Bullets have put themselves in a fantastic driving seat in this one.
They really have. 44, 40, one race to go. Which way is it going to go? We'll find out very.
At least the Milden Hall boys have got something to cheer about this weekend, because they're going to be awfully upset tomorrow.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. And James is going to take over the Greg Blair duties. So over to you, James.
Yeah, I'll step into the rather Greg has. Doing this night. Steve Hayward, myself, Berwick Speedway Manager today. Graham McCleary, the man behind the lens at Berwick Speedway. How are we doing, guys?
Yeah, good, mate.
All right.
Evening.
Good
evening.
And just to start off, obviously you were both in attendance at last night's meeting. What over to you first, Steve? What did you make?
Tell you what, it was a cracking meeting again. I've just got my programme in front of us here, and I mean, after heat 6, and I mean, the Bullets were 22-14 in front, and you're thinking, easy. But then all of a sudden, you know, the Tigers weren't lying down at all. and it was a cracking meeting. But I think it was a fitting result just about, and Milton Hall definitely deserved the point.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that they were certainly Marty used the term last night. It says that the Bullets couldn't shake them off, and they couldn't. Fair play to Milton Hall. They just did not. They just did not give up, and they just battled away all night, and they deserved a point. But my God, they were close to getting that little bit more.
Yeah, they were, and I think your assessment of Ben Rathbone being man of the match, I think he, without a shadow of a doubt, he definitely was. I mean, paid 10, and that reserve switch in Heat 14 was just a masterstroke by Flinty bringing him in, because he was going well. And obviously that won us the meeting. And for me, definitely, he was man of the match.
Yeah, he had a good night, and he was, riding with a bit of confidence, which I wouldn't say we've always seen. And on a night where, Luke Crang didn't have a poor night by any stretch, but he's had better nights. And certainly, like say Mason Watson, again, not for lack of effort. It's Kieran Douglas well, and then sort of on a night where guys maybe someone to step up, and ultimately that was Ben Rathbone.
Yeah, he looked like he really wanted to mix it last night for me. I mean, a lot of the time, I think he can look quite tentative on the bike, and he just seemed to attack it last night, and that made a massive difference.
Aye, makes all the difference, doesn't it? You know what I mean? What about you, Graham? What did you make of last night's meeting?
Problem when is when you film a meeting, you don't watch it. That's the problem.
That's very true.
Yeah, enjoyable. National League Speedway. I don't know why people don't come and watch it, to be perfectly honest, because it's equal, if not better, than the Premier League, or whatever the league they call it now.
There's value for money as well.
Yeah.
The other side of it as well. And I can't the sort of snobbery towards it. It's
is it a tenner to get in or something?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I think it is. I 100% agree with you there. I think it is a bit of snobbery, but the racing, to be fair, this season again has been excellent, hasn't it?
Nah.
Well, I think if you watch Heat 8 last night, the Ben's race with Sam Beebe was really having a right go at Ben, and Ben rode a clever race and stuck to his lines and didn't really deviate from it, and Beebe was giving it the big blast round 3 and 4 and not really the threat was there, but Ben, he didn't falter, he stuck to his guns, and obviously he got the race win, and I think the thing about that is it's a very confidence boosting performance from the young man.
Yeah, without a doubt.
I think as well that he was, as you say, it's obviously a massive confidence boost, that goes without saying. I don't know about his score, but that has to be his best performance that I've seen him put in since he joined the club, I believe anyway.
As I said, James, I think he looked a lot more confident on the bike. He looked like he wanted to attack it, where a lot of the time I think you see he can look quite tentative on the bike. And, I'm not saying afraid because that's the wrong word to use, but you know where I'm coming from. But last night, I don't know, there was just something different about him.
Yeah, just a different rider last night, wasn't he?
Yeah, definitely.
If you think back to the Kent Royals match, I think it was Heat 2. One of the lads looked a bit sort of even out his depth, shall we say, in that league. And Ben was a little bit behind him, but he also looked a little bit, as you say, Steve, a bit attentive and how to, dare we say it, get by him, because the lad was two-wheeling into the corners, and you can understand it. What way do I go? Because I might end up having to lay the bike down and what have you. And last night we didn't see that from him.
No, definitely not. He just had a different look about him for me. And it's great to see, hopefully he's making some progress. And I think the spell at reserve is definitely doing him the world of good.
Absolutely.
I think that's the way the makeup of the Bullets team's like quite obviously we're all a little bit biased, but it's quite good in as much as the way that it's always reshuffled. If you've got like say there's really 4 guys that have been sort of switching places between going out the main body of the side and dropping down to reserve, and each one of them has benefited from dropping to reserve and then getting their way back up into the team, whether that's Kieran, Mason, Ben, or and we've got Ace Piper now as well, who looks like he's going to hold on to a middle order. A middle order role. You would
tell you what it does remind me of. It reminds me of the Bandits side. I can't remember what year it was, but the year it was Matty Koos and Steen Jensen, and they were swapping places all season. And it was between number one. They were going from reserve to number one. But I can't remember what year that was.
2014.
2014. Aye. It reminds me of that. That the Bullets team reminds me of that Bandit side.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment, I would say. I mean, ultimately, obviously, that the way in which the Bullets are riding, you would fancy them to finish top in the league this year. But ultimately, when you go against a side like Milton Hall last night, you realise that playoffs look a pretty tough, prospect, because they're a handy side, and like Leicester as well, were a pretty handy side.
Bellevue as well.
Yeah, and they'll all be good around their own patch as well. So it's going to be that was as tough a meeting last night, I believe, that the Bullets have probably ever ridden in.
I would go as far to say it reminds me of the class of '94, the first ever league title winning side from the Bandits. The
football shirt wearing era. As we were discussing it, the football shirt wearing era, as we were discussing.
Yes, that's the one. Yes.
Yeah.
But even from, if I'm right in remembering, I think Sean Courtney started the season that year, but he got poached by Edinburgh or Glasgow maybe, and wasn't able to fulfil his commitments to the Bandits, so they had to look elsewhere. And I think they brought in somebody like maybe Darren Pearson or somebody like that from Bradford, and it was Berwick had a bit of a powerhouse side at the time, and the flip side of that is we had like Davy Meldrum in his debut season at reserve, so you had the local interest. And that's sort of the feel with the Bullet side at the minute.
Yeah, I think because you've got that local interest, especially with the likes of Mason and Kieran, particularly, and obviously Greg as well. So you've got that local interest. I'm surprised, as we said before, that there's not bigger. The crowd was all right last night, but certainly you're not getting the level of support for the Bullets as you do for the Bandits, which is a shame because I think people are missing out.
I think you're absolutely right, Stephen. It's already been said that I think from yourself, a lot of snobbery, like, I'm not going to watch that, it's rubbish. It's far from the case. You're talking about evenly matched teams having a real ding-dong and a go at each other.
Oh, definitely. It's you look at the box office you get from Greg. I mean, I even called him Bartosz when I was announcing last night.
I thought I heard you say Bartosz.
Bartosz is winning time. I couldn't help myself.
So you started.
That, Yeah, you lot, it's your fault. But yeah, you're quite right, Paul. I did call him Bartosz.
No, but it's good to see when you see riders enjoying themselves like the way that Greg does, and put yourselves across. I mean, that resonates with the fans.
Yeah, it does.
You
look at what he was like at the end. You look what he's like at the end of season 2 last year. Him and Crangy, it was just absolutely ridiculous. So, and that's what it's all about, though. That's the fun element of it, and we need to see more of that.
But just a quick story about Greg. He was telling us today that he was sat at the table with David Howe at the end of season party, and he had never met David Howe before, and he was saying to him, it's nice to finally meet you, etc., sort of thing. And I really enjoyed. It was nice to meet you again. I really enjoyed riding with you in 2009. And David Howe was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't remember you in 2009. And Greg was like, oh, wait a minute, you're not Paul Clews.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, but that's surely that's what that league's all about as well, about having fun.
Yeah, it has to be. And I can see that from the Bullets and the way that, like I said, Greg's interacting with the fans and that. It's brilliant. It's good to see, and that's what it should be about. And it encourages the kids to get involved, and that's what you need to do. Next generation.
Absolutely.
I
And to that degree, Steve, it's nice to see that your voice is holding up well with A Night in the Zone. I seen the footage of you belting
Have you
out
seen
the
the
tunes
footage?
Yeah. The coconuts was out. Aye.
Mrs. Dempsey's, she was behind the bar, so that was her fault. She was videoing it. Oh, that was brutal. Absolutely
I don't
brutal.
suppose you took a lot of encouragement.
No.
But gentlemen, getting back to the subject of Greg Blair, I get that Ben Rathbone, you gave him Rider of the Night, but is that not because Greg went and did an absolutely fantastic meeting? Both him and Kyle Bickley beat Jason Edwards, but it's just that Blair just does what we expect him to do.
Yeah, but you're right, he does. That's what, for me, it was funny because I said in the box last night and just looking at how Greg Blair is and what have you, and with no disrespect to Kyle Bickley at all, I think Greg should be the captain of that side.
Yes.
I don't know about you guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely an argument to be made for that. I would agree.
I think the thing about that is when you're talking about captains, you're talking about characters. The like sort of infectious people who buzz about the pits and gee everybody up and what have you. And I'm not entirely sure that is Kyle's style.
No, I think you're right, Marty. I agree with you.
And I think, well, I don't need to tell everybody, Greg, that is the complete opposite. Greg is very infectious, bubbly personality, and just gets on with everybody and an entertainer and very positive all the time. So I think that would be a wise choice.
That's what you need from a captain, and I think he would be a natural choice to take over that. Say, with no disrespect to Kyle whatsoever, but that's just not his personality, I don't think.
Yeah,
no,
quite a lad.
I would agree with that. The one thing I would say to that is that, like, say, Kyle Bickley, obviously it's been much talked about him in the last week or so, and his performance last night, turned up, did the job he had to do, and approached it in a professional manner, and take your hat off to him, because there's plenty of other riders out there that would have spat their toys out in the pram, and maybe not went for those moves that he did, and sat back. But fair play to him, he didn't, and he was a pivotal part, as they all were. Also, I think guys were a pivotal part of it last night, I feel.
Yeah, I think it was going to go one of two ways, and I said that to the referee at the start of the meeting. So we sort of literally said it's going to go one of two ways. It'll either be couldn't give a monkey's dummy spit, or he's going to go out there with a point to prove, and that's what he did. So fair play to him. You got to take it
absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
Gentlemen, we've managed to get Graham's audio issue sorted. Graham, welcome, and your thoughts on yesterday's performance, because you sent me that fantastic video of Greg and Ben in Heat 4, in Heat 14. You also sent me the one of Heat 5 as well. But I've only had time to upload one of them so far. But I'm working on the others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
cracking
your
meeting.
Thoughts?
Yeah, it was a cracking meeting. I thought we could have lost it, but Heat 14 pulled it round. It certainly in the playoffs, which is what it's all about, we'd have to do a lot better at home against them. But Milton Hall, can't underestimate them. Brilliant team.
A general question, though. Obviously, the Bullets is the feeder team to the Bandits, as is the Devils to the the Monarchs, and what are the Bellevue Colts to the Aces, and there's two teams in the league, I think I'm right in saying, that are standalone teams, and that's Mildenhall and Kent, whose sole purpose is to try and I just wonder if their motivation is more to win the league than to develop young talent, because it transpired that if Jason Edwards was to be signed by a Premier team, unlike last season when we had to let Leon Flint joined Wolverhampton, and that, dare I say it, might have cost us the league, the National League last season. They don't have that restriction this year.
No,
Jason
no, they
Edwards
don't.
can go and ride in the Premiership. So you know, and for me, it's dare I say it, I'm already worried that like Sir Milden Hall, it's going to come down to, if it's us and them home and away, they're probably going to beat us over the two legs, because that's their raison d'etre.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. That's what it is. I mean, you've got to have big home wins, really, and
Yeah.
that's what it's all about, really. But yeah, it's going to be hard.
I think although Mildenhall deserved that point last night, I think we could have done without them getting it, to be perfectly honest. That was my thinking, you know, send them away with nothing, especially after them winning at Armadale on Friday night, as they did.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know,
One thing it's learned is that you can't take anyone for granted in this league. No one at all. You know.
Yeah.
We just can't take it as a given we're going to win all our home meetings.
Definitely not. I think as well, like getting back to the Leicester meeting a fortnight ago, you know, I felt that the Bullets were quite lucky in that meeting. You know, that Leicester didn't get anything from it. I mean, ultimately, Leicester threw points away left, right, and
Yeah,
but,
they did.
you know, had they scored their points, that was a very, very different meeting. You know, and I felt the road were. I mean, you need a bit of luck. You know, there's certainly no doubt about that. And I felt we rode our luck that night, and I just couldn't help but feel going into last night's meeting that if we went in with that same, you know, that same sort of, you know, not attitude's not the right word, but you know, that same sort of thinking into last night's meeting, I felt we could have gotten the Bullets could have gotten caught out. But fair play that they did dig deep, but you do just wonder how crucial that point is going to be, as Steve mentioned.
Yeah, it could well be. Fine margins, I think, in this league, and it's right what you say, Paul. I think obviously Kent, Mildenhall, that's what they want to do, because they're the only teams. It's different for everybody else with the you call them feeder teams if you like, but it's not the main team, you know. So I think it's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough. It's going to be an interesting rest of the season in the NDL, certainly.
And thoughts on the between the victory parade and after the victory parade, we saw our new signing, Jonas Knudsen. I mean, he looked quite slow, didn't he?
He looked a little bit like a Danish Jason Doyle, which is easy for me to say. Too many. But
Nearly as bad as Berwick's battling Bickley.
Alliteration isn't our strong point, to be fair.
We've had a few dittisms this season when he got what was it he got? It got wrong. It was captain and something, and it came out how it shouldn't have done on the centre green.
Well, there could have been a tricky one last night with the Mildenhall number 7, I think it was.
He did it twice.
Yeah. Message from Kenny.
Diving into the corner, but we'll leave
yes,
that for
it's
another
customary dive.
It's always difficult. Getting back to Jonas, it's difficult to tell when he's out on his own, but it was pleasing to see that Leon was out on the centre green and helping them, pointing them where best to ride, and after a shaky lap or so, he looked much more comfortable. And the thing you've got to remember all day long is this lad's going to start at reserve. He's not being signed as a number 1.
Aye.
He's going to be in the reserve berth, so he's going to be able to have a bit of time.
I didn't see him because I'd obviously bolted by then, but reading some bits that I have done today, it looked like it's difficult to tell when they're on their own, but it's looked reasonably fast anyway.
Everybody looks good when they're out their shell, don't they? But I think he did, like it, as you say, kind of had he had a sort of shaky lap or two, and then after that you could see him trying different lines, and he looked fast and he looked smooth. And it was funny as we were watching him, I said, you know that way when you see a rider and he reminds me of another rider, and I can't put my finger on it, and it was Marty that pointed it out. He does it. He rides the bike much like a similar sort of fashion to Jason Doyle. So if he's half as good as him, it'll be fine, eh?
Will be
Well, we'll take that over Charlie Jada.
That name still gives me nightmares.
Charlie who?
So, but listen, you know, starting at reserve, it's got to be a massive plus for the lad. And, you know, having Nathan as well, we've already seen Nathan at reserve for Oxford, and then with the Chargers, and they come with the Bullets, and he's a gutsy little rider, and I think he'll fit in well at Berwick.
I think he'll get stuck in and he'll attack the track. I mean, he's scored a fair load of points against us in 3 meetings already this season. So I think he's a good addition.
If he scores about 6 or 7 at reserve, that's all we need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Totally
exactly,
is.
yeah.
It is. It certainly is. If we can, you know, if between, you know, I mean, obviously it's all ifs and buts, maybes and whatnot. But the way I see it is obviously there's been loads of talk about, obviously, I mean, the replacing Ty was obviously an essential thing, and there's loads of talk and a lot of people with quite strong opinions about Kyle Bickley, which I should add, a lot of the people that had these same strong opinions had strong opinions the other way while he was on the team. But that's maybe a different story for a different day. But ultimately, if between Jonas and Nathan, they can score, you know, equal to and ideally more than what the combined efforts of Ty Proctor and Kyle Bickley were doing, we're off to the races. So, and ultimately, after 3 home defeats, something had to change. And you know, Speedway being a numbers game, obviously someone had to be replaced. There was 2 changes necessitated. On this occasion, it was Kyle Bickley. On another occasion, it would be somebody else. It's just the way it is, unfortunately. And you know, it's nothing against Kyle at all. His efforts have been considerable, and you know, I think the hope is that if he comes back a better rider from it, then ultimately it's a bit of character building for him as well.
Yeah, definitely. We've always said Speedway's a numbers game, and it is. And he was just an unfortunate victim of that. But we couldn't go on with guests for Ty Proctor. We couldn't, you know, because there's not a lot of choice out there. And you kind of keep wheeling Lee Complin out every week, you know.
Yes.
After 10 years out of the sport, you know, with the greatest respect to him, being a great rider. But, you know, we just can't do that. I know some teams are doing it, not mentioning any names, but you know, we couldn't keep doing that. We couldn't go on, you know, because it's just not the riders within that average to use. So it was a necessary evil, unfortunately, and Kyle's just unfortunately been a victim of the numbers game.
Can I just ask though, does anybody think that it was a case of Ty deciding that he really couldn't carry on, and therefore it was him that walked away, or was it Berwick management that said, you know, I'm sorry, Ty, but you know we have to do something here? I mean, it, you know, which way round do you think it was?
I think injuries has played a lot with Ty.
Yeah,
Reading between the lines, I think he was taking a lot to get over his injury.
Yes,
and maybe that's been a 75-25 maybe decision.
Yeah, I mean, we've certainly, haven't we? We've speculated sort of backstage, as it were, about Ty, because you know when he meets the gate and he's out in front, he was, you know, as quick as anybody. I mean, hell, he won Heat 1 across at Glasgow, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so he's definitely still got it there, and we wouldn't want to lose him because we've seen how Spud has come back all of a sudden. And you know, speaking to people at the ground, they were saying that they're quite sort of miffed at the fact that Spud has signed for Oxford, you know, and it's like, well, why didn't we have him in our team from the start of the season? Well, because he retired, didn't he? So, but it's a tricky one, isn't it? It's all this juggling in the air of trying to get the right combination. But would you like to see a bit of Jonas Knudsen if you haven't seen him already going around?
Yes, I have. I've not seen.
I've got a bit of footage that was shot by Berwick's number 2 captain.
Yeah.
He was attacking that third and fourth bend and doing exactly what his team manager Leon Flint was telling him to do. and by the way, second best cameraman at Berwick is not me. By the way, it's him. So thanks for that, Marty.
It certainly looks good anyway, but it's difficult to tell. Once we get him into Heat 2 next week, then we're certainly going to know what he's like, aren't we? And see how he goes from there. But, I think he comes with a good pedigree anyway. So, and he's young. So
who's reserved for the Scorpions? Is it Palin and Kennedy?
I think so. I think Lambert's up in the main body now, isn't he? He's been number 2. So
that'll be a tough meeting as well, by the way. You know what I mean? They're a handy looking side, and we're obviously on a bit of a we're not in great form at home, let's be honest.
Ryan Douglas goes well around Berwick.
Very well.
Night off for the Sugar Brothers next Saturday.
And he's put through anyway.
Yeah, that's true. We've got a night off next weekend. BSN are doing the stream, so
no shout. I believe Graham's still in the trenches, doing a bit of filming.
Yeah.
No, it'll be interesting to see how he gets on. I think he'll do all right at reserve. I really do.
I think ultimately it's better than having a guest. You know what I mean? Having a rider better than having a guest, and ultimately time will tell just how good it does.
It wasn't booking Lee Compline every week. It wasn't.
Yeah. There was loads of effort there, but unfortunately that effort wasn't translating into points that it deserved.
Yeah.
It was costing.
That's where we've been losing. That's where we've been losing the meetings. That's the thing. If you look at over the last, those home defeats, if you look at what our reserves scored and what the opposition's reserves scored, then that's where we've been losing it. So
I think as well when you look at away wins in the championship, the top 5 solid, but you've always got one of the 2 reserves chipping in with 10s and 12s and getting, because it's that thing. Heat leaders don't win your matches. It's second strings and reserves that win your matches. Heat leaders, if they do the business, they're not the ones that win your matches. It's the reserves and the second strings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, yes, you do need your Heat 13, your Heat 15. Yeah. But if you've got at least one high scoring reserve, then you're going to get something out of a meeting.
Well, that's it. And I mean, I remember you said it before, Steve. The season we had Matty Coos. Mm-hmm. I think we beat Edinburgh at home by about 12 or 14, but he got about 21 with those points.
Yeah.
Did he get a 21? Did he get? I think he got a paid 21.
Paid 21.
Paid 21. Mm-hmm. So and it was cries from the Bathgate Road mob saying that we were cheating. I mean,
it was the way the team was built, but we didn't have that out and out massive number 1, did we? Because I mean, Matty Coos was at reserve 1 week and then he was at number 1 the next week.
Yes. So it just shows you're always going to need in the championship points from reserve, whether it be from both or one or whatever. If you're going to win matches, you need all 7. Let's be honest. That's the crux of the matter ultimately.
As well.
As we were discussing as well before the meeting, if the fixtures had been the other way around, we probably wouldn't have lost any home meetings. We would have muddled through them. If we had, we'd had Glasgow and people like that at the start of the season.
Yeah, if we'd had Glasgow, Redcar and Leicester as the first 3 meetings, and before Jai got hurt, I think we would have won those meetings, and I think that we would have possibly just had enough in reserve, as it were, to win those other meetings, and just muddle on through. The fixture list hasn't ultimately been kind to us, but hey, that's Speedway, isn't it? It's nothing's ever given to you. You know what I mean? It's all got to be earned and raced for. But the one thing I would say is that certainly, the despite the sort of home defeats, some of the racing that we have been treated to has been, has been great at times, and hence why I'm shouting about it every week. But
well, I would have to say that the Speedway has been almost as good as the commentary, and the commentary has been fantastic, and so has the footage. Because Graham, you've been at this game for how long?
Filmed my first meeting at Exeter in 1989.
On the Southern Tour.
On the Southern Tour, which Steve remember very well.
Was that the one where we started off at Rye House?
Yeah, we hammered Rye House.
And Mark won the golden helmet, the silver helmet.
Yeah, then
we
left
went
at
to
New
Exeter.
Middle Ditches. Yeah.
Yeah, so I got left at the middle ditches,
And can you remember the party in the hotel at Exeter? Yeah.
Exeter,
Yeah, Chuffers was the name of the hotel.
Yeah, was it?
Yeah. Opposite the station.
Yeah.
And I always remember Mark Courtney and Dave Blackburn playing air guitar and drums to Radar Love. And Jason Strawn doing what everybody does with a condom, putting it over his head and inflating it. But then it was weird, wasn't it? Because then it was like the riders became totally relaxed, because had that been the knockout cup match, we would have been out the knockout cup that year. By 2 points. But we went to pool, and I don't know about you guys, but I always had this conversation because it had been quite a frustrating season away match wise, that when this team clicks, they are going to give somebody one hell of a big kicking, and it just happened to be the league champions.
Mm-hmm. And you got to remember, Andy Campbell scored 1 point.
But then in that bloody devil take the hindmost,
he won it.
He won it, didn't he? four perfect starts, and he did bugger all in the. And I always remember Sean Courtney riding around, waving to the fans after his last race, as if to say, "There, I've gone and stuffed you." Because just as you were saying, that the heat leaders go out and do what they do, but it was our second strings just as much that contributed. Do you remember Lee Adams coming out as a tax sub?
I think the track caught cool out that night as well.
Oh yeah, they put a lot of soil in, didn't they? Yeah.
It suited us, but didn't suit them.
That played it all hands that night.
Mm-hmm.
Was Rossiter in that team in the pool?
Yes, he was. Yeah.
Yes, he was.
He must have done some greeting that night, because he's quite good at the old moaning on the telly.
Who's that? Sorry.
Alan Rossiter.
Oh, Alan, yes. But I mean, it proved that it wasn't a fluke when we went there in the cup and just lost by 4 points.
Mm-hmm. Double tax sub, and he 15 was it? Or 14?
Well, yeah, it was Blackie and Mark Courtney. I mean, what a legend Mark Courtney is. He released himself from hospital.
Aye, that's right.
And laid it in the back of somebody's car.
On the first bend against Wimbledon at home the weekend before.
Which was the first meeting I ever filmed at Berwick. That Wimbledon one. That was the first one I ever filmed at Berwick.
Because we thought that was us knacking when he went down.
Graham, would that be the same night that Blackie had a word with Todd Wiltshire?
Yeah, same night. Same night, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, Sean Courtney isn't exactly on Todd Wiltshire's Christmas card list either, I don't think, because I remember they had a set to in the National League versus Australia at Powder Hall in an absolute mud fest. But I mean, that was the thing, wasn't it? You know, I mean, that team was put together with it was just a sensational team. I mean, obviously Andy Campbell, superb around around Barrington. He'd ridden for Wimbledon the previous year, had he not? And he had impressed then, hadn't he? In '88.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that was a
massive surprise signing. Nobody saw that coming.
No,
Blackie. I think we saw that. We knew that was going to happen, and you know the nucleus was there anyway. When Mark was there, obviously, and Sean and Scott Robson and Granty, and we'd heard whispers about Walshy coming back. But Andy Campbell was a real surprise signing, and it took everybody by surprise. And but what a signing he was, wasn't he?
Oh.
I want the 7 All Brits.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And that was the second year that they let Continental riders at the National League. I think Rye
Would that be fair
Rye
to say
House.
that it was his...
Jens Rasmussen.
Well, actually, it was Peter Schroek was the first one.
Yes,
he was.
yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
And then Jens Rasmussen.
Yeah.
And that opened the floodgates.
Yeah. And then I
Was
think
it
Lars
the,
Munkendal went to Edinburgh in '89.
Yes, he did. That's right.
Yeah.
The following season we had Pop Rivet.
Yes, he
90,
did.
yeah. I think he was signed for either 100 or 200 pounds from Exeter. Something like that.
Well, it's a bit of contrast in home tracks, isn't it? County ground to Berwick.
Two different places you couldn't get.
I
But by
know.
all accounts, he was a rather tough customer to deal with.
Oh yeah.
On track, I mean.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah.
But for a lot of that season in '90, he rode number 2 with Mark, and you could tell that there was a chemistry there. Mark and Pop Rivet really enjoyed each other's company, and yeah. I mean, can you remember any of the shenanigans from '89? You don't have to go into great details. I mean, I've got so many memories of that '89 season, but you know, somehow I need corroboration from other witnesses.
I remember inflatable bananas doing the rounds.
Yeah.
I don't know where they came from.
Can you remember? It was in '88 when Hackney got that 48-all draw, and I am sure I remember seeing Chris Louis going round on the slowdown lap and giving Rob Grant the finger from behind, and Rob Grant obviously
Not
took
really
that
wise.
with huge respect and decorum, and apparently had Chris Louis by the throat. You know, have I imagined that, or is that?
It happened the year before at against Milton Hall with Eric Monaghan.
Yeah.
Eric Monaghan come past Rob and slapped him on the back, and then Rob decided to have a word with him on the fourth bend.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I remember that.
Yeah. I think he had him in a headlock at one point, and then everybody was diving on top, trying to pull him off him.
I ended up in a free for all the fourth bend.
It did, yeah. And of course, Berriton was at dark, and it was near the end of the year. And I was in the box that night, and Bill Easton was the referee. And he was just saying, put the lights on. I can't see what's going on because they're all fighting on the fourth bend.
Brilliant.
No, keep the lights off. Would
that one be on your YouTube channel, Graham?
That's on that channel, yeah.
I thought I had seen it.
It's on the Rob Grant Rocky audition.
Oh.
So Graham. Sorry.
No, go on.
No, I was just going to say, so Graham, what first interested you in the idea of videoing it? Was it just the fact of Dennis saying, "Here you go, son. Here's a camera."
No, I had to buy my own. At the time, there was a company called Border Mobile Video and a company called Dialer Video who were filming at Berwick, but they weren't filming every week, and I felt as though it needed filmed every week.
Mm-hmm.
So I went out and bought a pretty horrible camera and muddled through, did a bit of trials in '89 and then did a full season in 1990, and then realised that the camera I had was no good in the dark. and Berriton was terrible in the dark. So
I say Berwick wasn't the lightest of places.
No,
It
it was terrible. So I had to go and buy another one which had a better lux setting on it. So, but that's what it was.
Well, wasn't there a meeting when they got all the cars on the centre green? And
yeah, that was the Newcastle and the Autumn Trophy. Yeah,
but I mean, when it comes to doing all the editing and putting all the description of the riders and the score and all that kind of stuff, did you do all that as well?
I did it. It was all done on the night when I first done it with a little cartridge. I actually tried to fill a program in while I was filming, which was difficult, and type it in on a little screen on top of the camera. But the year after I bought a character generator. It was a lot easier. Just did it afterwards. Wow.
Mm-hmm. And the women say the blokes can't multitask. I mean, I'd hats off to you, Graham, because I mean I just love all the the old footage of Barrington Lough, and I mean, obviously, it was a case, and we've spoken about this before. The opposition were beat before they even took to the track.
A lot of the times they were, yeah.
And what was it that freaked them out?
Just intimidation, I think.
Rob Grant.
It basically started from meeting you at the pits gate to and then Tim Loudon and the pits. I think it just sort of
hostilities started early.
Hostilities started early, aye. Exactly. Yeah.
Jim was enough to frighten the life out of anybody.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He was a big colossus of a man, wasn't he? I never knew him all that well. I knew him to see, but outside of that, I never knew him. But I always remember, even when I was a youngster, when I first started going, I'm like, God, he's a big laddie, isn't he? You know what I mean? It's just
I can remember being in a chip shop in Exeter, and Jim was ordering fish and chips, and we had to translate for him. He couldn't understand a word he was saying.
And guys, Steve and Graham, can you remember the trips on Davy Fairbairn's bus?
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. Primrose.
Yeah. Primrose.
Oh.
Yeah.
Primrose. Yeah.
First away meeting was...
Well, both me and Steve were too young to drive at the time, but the story was if you were awake, you drove the bus.
Yeah.
Sounds like a Berwick bus, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And
I remember
the first
back up from Poole when we'd won at Poole, and we stopped on. This must have been the side of the M5. It would be the M5, I would think. And we stopped to transfer beer out of the van, and we all got out the van because we were busted because we'd been in the bar. And the coppers came along, and we were all stood along the side of the bus, and the coppers came along and they caught Mark Courtney and
we crate a lager.
And told him to put it back in the van again. And when we pulled away from the hard shoulder, it was just like a tidal wave running down the hard shoulder, but we'd all been stood. It was hilarious.
Can you remember Rye House on the Sunday? And we were left, they would not leave Berwick like about 11 o'clock at night and drove through the night.
Yeah, we did.
And we got to Rye House at something like 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning or something. And the only thing we could do was go to church.
Yeah,
it was one of these churches. It was one of these churches. You had to take your shoes off at the door.
That's right.
We're waiting on the pub opening at the Riverside. It didn't open till 11. It was like 7 in the morning.
What was the sermon about? What was the sermon about?
I don't know.
Making starts.
Making starts.
Well, being right
must have worked. We could be absolutely thumped them.
Oh yeah. I can just remember Mark Courtney lying sleeping in the back of the bus, and when we got there, he just sort of looked up and went, "Stupid bastard, time to get to a track."
Can you remember the first away was Eastbourne, and which we should have won.
Mm-hmm.
Had it not been for David Norris and Dean Barker, we would have won that. But the next away match was Hackney.
Never a happy hunting ground for Berwick.
And but bizarrely, it's like, I mean, does this sort of thing happen? The top scorer, the number one in the what was it called? What league was it called then? Was it called the National League?
National League, yeah.
Yes. So top of the averages at the end of the season was Steve Schofield.
Yes, right.
Not 89. Yeah, he would be. Yeah. Did he start? He came 89. Yeah.
And he was at Hackney that year because he then went to Poole the next year, but he was the top rider that year, and we lost. I think it was by about 6 points at Hackney.
Can't remember.
It was something like that. But Steve Schofield actually lent Mark Courtney his bike for one of the races.
Yeah, that happened quite a lot.
It's bizarre, isn't it? Can you imagine that happening these days?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you don't see that nowadays, would you? You barely have your teammates lend you a bike, let alone an opposition rider.
But for me, that's like, wow. Mark Courtney was obviously so popular, not just with, within Berwick, but within Speedway in general. They must have, it's just. I don't know. I don't know what I'm having
I'll tell you what,
on
there was
about.
some
I'll tell you.
riders in that league that year, mind. If you look at the likes of Steve Schofield,
Oh yeah.
you know, Andrew was Silver still, Silver gone up to Swindon by
Silver
then.
got
He'd
by
gone
then,
up to
yeah.
Swindon, yeah.
He'd gone up to Swindon, but then you had the likes of Mark Courtney, Blackie, Stevie Lawson, you know,
Les
riders
Collins.
like that, Les Collins. You know, there was that league was just full of cracking riders. Craig Boyce, Lee Adams. You know, you can keep naming them, but if you looked at the averages for that year, the amount of riders that were above 10 points or on the cusp of 10 points was just absolutely insane. And if you look at it now, it's nothing like that now.
There's sort of one guy on 10, maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
A couple of 9, and then.
Well, is Sam Astor's no number one in both leagues on a 9?
Yeah, could be.
Something like that, yeah.
Could be.
I mean, back in 89, 88, 89, you never seen any of the top league riders riding in our league.
No,
Never happened. Never happened.
Can I just give you the top 10 for 1989?
This would be
Steve Schofield, Hackney, 10.5, the only one over 10. Second place, Andy Galvin, Hackney, 9.95. Just behind him, Todd Wiltshire, Wimbledon, 9.94. In fourth place at the end of the season, Blackie, 9.78. Next, Nigel Crabtree, 9.77. And then the Frog. Who's the Frog? Steve Redlin. I've no idea why they call him that, but his face is kind of reminiscent of a frog. And can you remember some? Was it in Speedway Start about the fact that his kids were referred to as tadpoles or something?
I think that was probably Dick as well.
So does that mean if it crashed, there'd be a toad in the hole? Or?
And then next after Steege comes Kenny McKenna, Glasgow, 9.71, and next is my number one favourite rider that never rode for Berwick,
Mark
Loram, 9.65. But
was he not riders champion? Yeah, he was riders champion that year.
Yeah, but he rode for Ipswich that year.
He did, yeah.
In seventh place, Rob Grant's favourite, Chris Louis of Ipswich, 9.65. And ninth place was Gordon Kennett of Eastbourne with 9.60. And then the kid, 9.52.
Wow.
Was that the year that Louis and Loram got transferred from Hackney to Ipswich?
Yeah,
it must have been, yeah.
John Louis went from Hackney to Ipswich as well.
Yeah. And took those two with him, yeah.
Because I think Ipswich had dropped down. They were in the top league the year before.
In 88.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, they were in the top league in 88.
So I'm guessing maybe
Doncaster.
Mogo, did Mogo go from Hackney to Ipswich maybe?
I think he possibly did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just when you're on about riders and the quality riders in the sort of second tier at that time, I saw a thing on, I don't know if you follow Speedway Social on Twitter.
Yeah.
There was a thing on, it was on about riders in the Premier League, Championship, whatever you want to say. And you know, it was like sort of basically trying to obviously start off the debate as to who was the best second division rider ever.
No, I've seen that.
Yeah. And you know, and it was saying, obviously got like say, and again, like I was looking at it and I thought, when you actually think about it, even in my time, which was like, you know, after like say 89 and stuff like that, so you've got like, if you included like way back in that as well, like that list's even bigger in terms of the riders that came along. But you know, I was thinking about it, you know, you got guys like Stonehewer, Peter Carr, Ray Morton, you know, Sean Wilson, you know, Zager, Harris, Nichols, Batchelor, you know, like that list is absolutely endless. Pick one of that, you know what I mean? Like you just couldn't.
I don't think you could. Nah, you couldn't.
Yeah.
Can you remember? Sorry, Steve, you carry on.
I think you've got to look at it as eras, I think, because obviously we're talking about 89, what have you,
Yeah.
you know. So, and you guys obviously later than that. Than us. So, you know, Graham and I and Paul as well, we saw all those riders, you know, your Courtneys, your Collinses, your McKinnas, and people like that, you know. And then you're talking about your Sean Wilsons, your Stone Hewers, and your Zagars and people like that. I don't. That's a debate that I think's never ending, isn't it?
Well, it is. It's a matter of opinion, first off, obviously.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is as well, like, what do you base it on? Do you base it on, you know, because obviously there's some riders only were there on the way up. There's some riders that were there on the way down.
Well,
you know, it's a difficult one.
I tell you that one of the answers that I seen was Kevin Little saying that Peter Carr. That was Oiro, Peter Carr.
Yeah.
And whilst personally I'm not a big fan of him, but if you take that in the context of he would be, I'm guessing he would be a top man around that era, like 89, 90 in that league. And you fast forward 10 years, and he was still a top man. And
he was in the top league then, Graham, wasn't he? He rode for Sheffield, I'm sure he did. He was in the top league, Peter Carr.
He was at the top league for Sheffield, yeah.
Oh, with the Moran brothers.
With the Moran brothers, that 88 season, yeah.
Yeah.
He was in that team.
That was some team and all.
Yeah.
The Moran brothers.
But then did Graham, you might know better than me, but did Rerun Videos or something like that not release a DVD special of National League Heroes? Such was the strength of the league at the time.
That was Tony McDonald that released National League Heroes.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
So, you know, as Steve's saying, is it comparable? Not really, because different eras. I mean, it's like saying who's the greatest speedway rider ever.
Yeah.
You know, it's subjective, isn't it?
Yeah. Subjective, and I think
you can't pick, can you?
No.
Either different eras or different decades, even, or something. You know, the answer. But even then, when whatever way you slice it, it's still a hard question. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What, you know what I mean? Because when I think back, you know, to when I first started watching Speedway, you know, every week you'd have teams coming, and every team had that one guy in the side that you paid your money to see. You know what I mean? You had there was one guy that you thought he'll score double figures tonight. You know what I mean? Or you're thinking, you know, if anybody in our team beats him, then that's a win in itself. You know, you had obviously you had your Stone Hewers, Peter Carr, again guys like Ray Morton, Shane Parker. You know, loads of guys like that. But it was great. Like what a time to be watching. And again, the same for you guys watching the sort of, you know, in the kind of periods of 89 and stuff like that. Every team would have their sort of top guy, and you wanted to see your guys go out and beat them. Yes.
To be honest, James, you would have some teams that would be 2 or 3, and I suppose you would agree with me, Graham, as well. You know, I'm thinking of Milton Hall were here last night. Then you would look at the Milton Hall team of sort of 88, 89, and you had Dave Jessup, Mel Taylor, you know, Eric Monaghan,
yeah,
coming, you know, with those teams, you know, and then you would have Poole with Adams and Boyce and Rossiter, and then Hackney were, you know, maybe Laram and Mogridge or whoever it might have been, you know. Galvin, Andy Galvin as well, and then you had Eastbourne with Kennett and Buck, you know, riders like that. So a lot of those teams that would visit, you'd have 2 or 3 riders that you think, wow, really, I'm looking forward to seeing him. And then even like Hillsborough with, you know, Daz Sumner and riders like that, you know, and Dicko and
Martin Dixon, you
know, and people like that. So, you know, that was what it was like back in those days. 2 or 3 riders coming, and then Milton Hall with Mr. Certain Pink Panther, Mr. Haben.
Berwick wasn't his favourite place.
Yeah, still the most fun interview we ever did. It was totally unplanned. He just grabbed the mic. We were waiting on somebody else, and he just grabbed the mic off us and did a rant.
Brilliant! I love that interview. It's brilliant.
Is that the one where he says he washed his leathers?
Yeah, washed his leathers in the changing rooms. Yeah, and he says it was raining on parade. Got his hair wet on parade, and he said you can't get your hair wet, not at my level.
But I remember that meeting as being a very rain affected meeting. It was like all the way down to Berwick, and I was thinking the Speedway's not going to be on, and we got just the sort of at the top of the farm road with the farm, housings is, if you're coming from the Duddle side,
Aye.
it's like a double S bend.
Yeah. And
And
the
we met
cottages
a
are right
car
hand
that had a
side.
Berwick. We had a car. Well, we met a car with Berwick Speedway Sunstrip, and they were waving as much to say the Speedway's off, the Speedway's off. And lo and behold, we kept going, and we went down, and the Speedway was on, and I think it was a bit of a massacre that day for the Fen Tigers, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that was a good team, 92 as well.
I think it might even been the beginning of the end of Fen Tigers that year, because they went bust, didn't they?
I think they went bust that year, yeah.
And have you been down to Mildenhall? Because I was there last year for the Bullets meeting. It's a fantastic setup they've got there. You know, I mean, as a standalone club, they're definitely doing it right. They've got great promotion. They get huge following, don't they, in that Restro arena?
Yeah, they
Never
do.
been.
And I've been once. I think 'cause I've obviously got family down there, so I've been once.
Right.
But I think the Mildenhall are very good on social media as well. That social media outfit's really good, and I think that gets them a lot of fans in as well. You know, they're very interactive with the fans, which is what you want to see. You know, unlike we are as well, but unlike some clubs that just
some clubs do it better than others. I think is the way to think with it. And ultimately, I think that's where it's at. Whether we like it or whether we don't, you know, that you have to be seen to be pushing everything on social media and being sort of proactive on these things, because ultimately that's where people are. Sorry to put it another way, that's where all your traffic is, if you like.
Yeah.
So it's the place it has to be, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I went down to Perry Bar. Oh, sorry, I came back up to Perry Bar. I'd visited my mum down in Gloucestershire. I came up for that meeting that was abandoned after 2 races. And I was told, reliably informed by quite a few of the Brummie fans, that the attendance was quite a bit up on previous weeks because some of the riders and the promotion had gone to the Asda, which is right next door. There's a huge retail complex next door to the stadium, and they'd done some promoting there, and I just feel, you know, there has to be more of that kind of stuff, you know, just getting the name out, you know, and getting people at least, you know.
I can remember when I was at primary school, the Speedway used to come around to the primary schools.
Yeah.
That's how I got. Well, I was going anyway, but I can remember in the late 70s they come around.
I'm sure they went.
They did, yes, they did.
Schools,
yeah, they did.
Mrs. works at Tweedmouth. Did I think possibly Leon went to Tweedmouth because Leon went to Tweedmouth. He was the pupil there. So I think that's what they need to do more of. I mean, obviously Newcastle went to the Northumberland show.
Yeah,
did some demo stuff and that looked quite good. Whether that's going to help them or not, obviously off the back of some of their results, who knows? But you know, maybe something that our promotion could look at as well. You know, like maybe Kelso show, Wooler show, something like that we could go to and to get it out there.
I want to say possibly the year that Steen Jensen rode.
Yeah, Steen Jensen was at Kelso show. Yeah,
I want to say they were at Kelso show, but you're right. Ultimately, like that. I mean, that's something. So we're going back 7-8 years then. So
just talking about Kelso show though. There's somebody on the show tonight that's riding a Speedway bike around Kelso showground.
Yeah, I got chased out the place for it. I know.
I think you weren't supposed to be there then.
No, I was supposed to be there. I just wasn't supposed to be attempting to ride a Speedway bike around the place. But...
How old were you then?
31.
Oh, just last year.
No, I've been in my 20s. Yeah.
A question for Graham, and I wasn't at this meeting, so I understand that there's always been since '91 a little bit of hostility between Berwick and Bellevue. Could you explain what happened I think it was Berwick's last meeting of the season in '91.
Last meeting of the year. I think Bellevue had their end of season due the night before and didn't want to come, and subsequently didn't come. So we rode 15 heats unopposed, and it was 65-0.
Engine failures.
There was a 0-0 in it. I remember that. They were all just trying to drop their averages.
I mean, was there any comeback on Bellevue? Because
they got fined. They got fined.
Did they?
I can't remember how much. They got fined.
Oh,
I think Mr. Perrin was clearly not bothered at the time, and he was quite happy to accept the fine because he felt at the time that it was unacceptable to ask the club to travel up to little old Berwick the night after they had their end of season affair. It was a Sunday afternoon meeting.
It was, yeah, Sunday afternoon.
And there was a lot of Sunday afternoon meetings in the top flight, wasn't there?
A lot of Friday meetings in the top flight.
Yeah, Fridays as well. Yeah,
a lot of Fridays. Yeah.
I'm
There's a lot of Saturday tracks in that league. There's Cradley, Bradford, Coventry. They were all Saturday tracks.
I'm going to say, did we not race against Cradley on a Friday night?
Yeah,
in '91.
Yeah.
Can you remember when that snowstorm hit?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the track was completely white.
You got to remember where I was.
It was snowing on you before it had a track. Is that what you're trying to say?
It wasn't in the bar.
No, it wasn't in the bar.
Oh.
I want to say, was it the Reading match that got abandoned?
It didn't get abandoned, but they stopped it for a while.
Oh.
The Cradley match got abandoned for rain the first time they were there. Because I always remember Billy Hamill had white leathers. And it was chucking it down.
I seem to recall Jarno Pedersen being pretty handy round the loft.
He was. David Blackburn beat him, and David Blackburn clocked 55.2, which is the fastest he's ever went round there.
Yeah.
Wow. He had Jarno Pedersen behind him the whole way round.
Dave Blackburn, I remember he was interviewed in one video, and he was asked what's the difference between riding in like the second division and the first division, and he said, I don't know, what is it, the number of bikes you're allowed? Is it is that the difference? It's like, I don't care. He always used to say, didn't he? If you make the start, you might win the race. I thought he was him and Mark Courtney obviously had a chemistry from their time from Leicester together. Would that be right? They rode for Leicester?
I think they rode for Leicester. I can't remember. Mark certainly did.
Yeah, Mark definitely did, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember if Blackie did or not.
No.
Well,
I just remember the northern circuits. Middlesbrough, Newcastle, Glasgow, and then obviously us. I think the only northern track in right was Edinburgh.
David Blackburn was on a 5-1 with Gelb against Cradley Heath, and they had Big Al Graham behind them. And the two of them were sort of like cruising around on a 5-1, like you thought they could have ridden 40 laps and they were going to get it. And it just one by one, Alan Graham just totally mugged them all off. And like the frustration afterwards, the two of them were like, well, we're on a 5-1, what happened there? And I just remember thinking that, like, even at that time, Alan Graham would, wily old fox, he just picked them off one by one, not a bother, because the two of them sort of just thought, oh, well, this is easy. That's how it appeared at the time to me, anyway.
He was a canny rider, Al Graham.
Yeah. I mean, the Berwick did have a few successes on the road, didn't they? Did we not win at Wolverhampton?
We won at Wolverhampton. We won at Bradford.
Yes. And I
all
think
Gold Cup, though.
Gold Cup matches.
Yeah, and also, did we not do well at Coventry? Where
we did well at Coventry. We did well at Coventry with a patched up side.
Yeah.
Lost by 2, maybe?
Yeah, 2 points, yeah.
Yeah.
Coventry
we won at Pool as well. We won at Pool. I think that was the BSPA Cup.
Yeah.
Actually, we made a habit of that in the end, didn't we?
I think we got hammered in the league there, though.
But Graham, you've just reminded me of something. Poole have never won at Berwick. And was there not a famous meeting when Berwick got a 5-0 in the last
1988?
What?
Berwick needed a 10-1 to win, and they got it. They got a 5-0 and a 5-1, or a 5-1 or 5-0. I can't remember which way around it was. 1988.
We never get that rub of the green now, do we?
No, never get hooked like that now.
Man, torture.
That must have been absolutely amazing.
It's all right. We'll win at Wimborne Road this year. It'll be fine.
Going back to 1989, I think one person which we really should mention if you're talking about 89 is Ian Graham.
Yeah.
Who I knew Ian quite well. Ian was Berwick through and through, and that was him dying in 89 was ultimately what finished Davy Fairbairn with Speedway, I think.
Yeah, it did, yeah. Yeah. And we won the cup for him.
You won the cup for him, yeah.
Well, you've got Rob Grant saying, you know, we've done this for one person.
That's right, yeah.
You know, and you know, Rob Grant, not a man of many words, unless you get him privately. And this is another interesting thing. You know, the fact that I've reached out to so many people to join us, and there's been one or two who said, you know, much as I'd love to, I'm not good at speaking over live. So if if you could accept my apologies, as it were, you know, I can imagine one or two people being like Rob Grant, Mark Courtney, Dave Walsh. That I don't think there's any chance of getting them on for a live chat.
I think you'll get Dave Walsh on, mate.
Walsh, you might.
Walsh is very good.
He is.
A few times, and he's brilliant. He's really good to talk to.
I know. He last year he even bought me a pint in the Black and Gold. That's how good he was. But no, I took a selfie with him, and he said, "But please don't put that out on social media." So I thought, well, you know, fair enough. But no, I mean, that year, Walsh actually came and stayed the weekend with us in Gala, and we went to some nightclubs in Gala where they had the.
That must have been an eye opener for them.
They were called the Tenants Guilds, you know, the dancing and that was particularly good fun. But
Digby's.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Digby's. Yeah, that was it.
Before my time, Paul.
Well before your time. Well before you. Yeah, I mean, you know, we're talking about Greg Blair, of course. I mean, 1989 was the year before Greg Blair was born. That's how long ago it was. It's amazing.
Our age now, chaps.
Yeah, but it's amazing.
What's more frightening is when you see Speedway starting and they're now retired.
Yeah.
I remember Kevin Little starting, you know.
Yeah.
Well, Kevin's the same age as me.
Yeah, but I mean, these memories are sort of etched. You know, they'll be with us forever. You know, fantastic memories of the '89 team. I would say in particular, because you know, to win that trophy that year, the Knockout Cup, and to do the double over pool. You know, that showed what a good team that was, and as previously mentioned, an all British team, which was absolutely fantastic. And I was beginning to get feelings about this team this year. You know, are we going to do the same? Could it be? And I'll fingers crossed. Could it be that by the time Redcar come to us in the cup, we'll have had 5 meetings? Who knows how Jonas Knudsen is going by then?
Yeah.
Do you think Redcar might be sort of backtracking on this idea that, you know, we've got a 12-point lead, you know, this is easy, you know, who's going to come next, sort of thing?
I don't think there's any doubt that Redcar start that meeting as favourites.
Okay.
Go through. But what I would say is a 12-point lead's far from insurmountable. You know what I mean? It's doable. It'll take a Herculean effort, but it's doable. And yeah, the hope is that that Jonas hits the ground running, gets himself sort of. Oh, there's the cat. And gets himself sort of moving in the right direction. And you never know, anything's possible. We're just gonna have to wait and see ultimately, aren't we? You know, it's not insurmountable, but it is going to be tough. I mean, let's not beat about the bush. It is going to be.
I think the thing about that is, for Berwick to overcome it, they've got to hit them early doors. First 2 or 3 races, banging the heat advantages, because it's all about the start. If you get the start right, the rest you would hope is going to follow.
I think they've got to get the track right as well. Track has to be right. You know, it's if the track's not right, it could play into Redcar's hands. So if Razor gets that track right, then
we've seen it plenty of times before, you know, where the track's caught and not for a second am I criticising anybody at all. That's not what I'm doing. But you know, you've seen it where the track's just a little bit different. It's off. We've spoken about fine margins before, You know, 2 or 3 degrees swing in the temperature can make all the difference. You know, wind windy last night.
Exactly.
Yeah, you see it, and you know, these are all things that he's ultimately fighting against, and you know, the track's always good in as much as it, like, you know, it's smooth and it's always well prepared and stuff like that, but fighting against elements that, you know, are like ultimately
and interestingly enough, Graham touched on it last night up in the tower that
not that story.
The Berwick Rangers are starting to have their games again, so that's a factor to take into account.
Back on Saturday.
Was it this Saturday? Christ, already.
This Saturday, yeah.
Jeez.
And how will that affect things?
Can't get on the track all day.
But
Can't get on to 5 o'clock.
What I did notice, was a muckle big hose pipe spraying the grass.
Yeah.
So is that hose pipe available to the Speedway to water the track? It's clearly long enough.
I don't know.
And they've clearly got points for accessing water because that was one of the things that struck me. You know, rather than taking the truck round, would it be easier just? I mean, I remember Steve Resling at not Steve Resling. Was it? Who was the team manager? Dave Townsend or something? Trounston. Yes. I remember him going out and watering the track with a big hose pipe at Exeter. They didn't have a water bowser. They had him going out with the big hose pipe.
I might be wrong. I don't think Powder Hall had a water bowser either. I think it was hose pipes.
Yeah.
I've never needed one when we went there anyway. Cracking record at Powder Hall.
Yeah.
Edinburgh's bogey team there, Steve.
We were, since one of the best meetings up there. Mark Courtney's 15-point maximum. Oh, that was unreal.
That was the week. Was that not a couple of weeks after Rob Grant and Doug Wire had the coming together at Middlesbrough?
I think so. Yeah. It was just
was there no guy on the home straight with a noose?
Oh no, you might be right. Aye.
Was that meeting?
Really? I think it probably was.
Because Doug Wire had just finished his career, broke his leg.
That's right, he broke his leg.
It's a bit extreme in terms of he wouldn't exactly got a granted with the noose. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't have thought so. He had a greyhound track and a fence between them, so he was quite safe. But
the spectator was safe.
Yeah.
I remember '92. I don't think we lost a match at Powder Hall.
Oh, I can't remember.
Well, I remember Richard Knight was we kept him, didn't we?
Mm-hmm. Edinburgh had signed a Polish lad that year, Darek Fliegert,
yeah.
And what happened was, I think his first ride, certainly when Berwick were there, he managed to tangle with Kenny McKenna. I think he rode over his helmet and Kenny had a broken cheekbone, which kind of ruled him out the rest of the meeting. But not only that, like Walshy, Robbo, Richard Knight, they all flew around Powder Hall.
Oh, yeah.
We had a cracking record there. I mean, some of the meetings we've seen there back in the day.
Miss Powder Hall, like.
Yeah, no, I still miss Powder Hall.
Mm-hmm.
There's one track I could bring back apart from Berwick, and it will be that.
We still get covered in shale on the gantry, don't you worry.
Poor Graham gets shouted at and he's right in his lug half the time.
Yeah. I've got tinnitus at the end of every meeting.
The excitement levels sometimes kind of reach fever pitch, don't they?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's been known. I like to call it enthusiasm.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, that's what it is, mate. That's what it is. Can't get that excited in the box. You've got to kind of be a bit more neutral when you're sitting next to the referee.
Well, this is true. This is true.
Well, yeah, I would say there's a few tracks I've been to where it gets announced who the winner is before the referee's decided.
I hate that.
I've seen that at Armadale a couple of times.
I tell you what, I never used to like. I seen it at Coventry. I think the guy's called Peter York, and as the riders entered the third lap, and this is a centre green announcer, he would start to tell you what was going on, and you're thinking, well, I'm standing here, I can see it for myself. I don't need you.
Hawkey does
coming
that
over the
rules as
tunnel.
well.
Hawkey does it.
Hawkey does it as well.
Does he?
I think it Wolves a few
going
times.
Going back to, I think it was 88, Dave Lannon did live commentary over the PA.
Yeah.
At Wimbledon.
At Wimbledon, yeah.
We'll never be
Plough Lane, isn't it? Plough Lane?
Plough Lane, yeah.
Yeah.
Not for me. That's one thing about what James and I got on. At least only us two and Graham can hear it at the time. Maybe just as well.
Probably.
I'm surprised we can't hear you from the refs box.
Well, there was an incident earlier on this season where I think it might have been the Bellevue match, and Greg was doing Greg things and missing starts and coming from the back, and the track curator at Berwick, as he seen James and I down in the pits, he said, "Oh, I bet you lads are a bit coarse tonight, or a bit hoarse rather." But he used a bit more colourful language, and
as he does.
The two of us just walked away laughing, just the way it come out. It was ever so funny, because he ultimately was right, you know.
Can I just because I realise time's pushing on. Can I just ask of each and every one of you, your opinion of how the season's gone so far and prediction for the rest of the season, both for the Berwicks, Bandits, and the Bullets. If we can go clockwise with Steve.
Oh, that's a tough one. I think until for the Bandits, until you see what Knudsen does and how he settles in, I think it's difficult to call. Will we make the playoffs? I honestly don't think we will now. I think those 3 home defeats have actually just killed it. Cup-wise, as we've discussed, 12 points, not unsurmountable. If we could do something in the Cup, happy days. But be interesting to see how Knudsen goes, and if he can fire, then we might get to the playoffs. But we're going to need to pick up points away from home, and whether we do or not, good question. Bullets, I'm a lot more optimistic. They'll make the playoffs. I don't see why not. Can they win it? Yeah, they can. But as again we've discussed, I think the likes of Mildenhall and Kent and Bellevue and Leicester as well, it's going to be tough. But if they could stay injury free, keep their form, the Bullets could probably do better than the Bandits. I think that would be my prediction. I think.
James?
Yeah. I think Steve's covered it, to be honest. What I would say about the Bandits is what started off quite promising. Once the injury to Jai came, was everything went up in smoke, and we've not really recovered from that. Ultimately, teams been made changes, and at this point, we've absolutely nothing to lose. We're probably going into every meeting as the underdog now, and that's fine. That's a position that we're
used to.
Yeah, we're more than used to it. You know what I mean? It's something that we've always been that, and I think, we'll ultimately we'll find out if Jonas Knudsen and Nathan Stoneman is the catalyst to kick on from there. Playoffs, jury's out as to whether we'll make it. Ultimately, time will tell. I can't help but feel that 3 home defeats may just be a little bit much to overcome at this point, but always willing to prove wrong in these situations, and obviously the Cup as well. 12 points is doable. Be tough. It is doable though, and as we say, we'll have to hit Redcar hard and hit them early. Bullets, I think they're nailed on to make the playoffs. However, if they're going to go on to win the playoffs and pick up the National League, they're going to have to be better than they've already been against teams like Mildenhall and Leicester.
Yeah.
Because I feel over 2 legs, based on what we've seen so far this season, I can't help but feel that those guys would start as favourites against us over a 2-legged affair.
Sure. Graham?
We need to start winning away from home to get the playoffs.
Where do you see potential victories? I see potentially Birmingham.
Where we're going to go. Birmingham, yeah. We should have won at Newcastle. But track was an issue there.
But also we had basically 3 riders out: Jai, Ty, and Leon. You know,
it's all random close even then.
Yeah, yes.
Bullets, so they'll be there or thereabouts. KO Cup, I think, is our best option for anything this year.
Sure, Marty.
I think obviously the lads have already said it. You know, time's going to tell as far as the Bandits are concerned, with the changes that have been made. And away wins, we've got Redcar left, Poole left, Leicester,
Scunthorpe,
Birmingham. Excuse me. Where the away points come, I don't know, but obviously we're going to have to get away points if we're going to make those playoffs. However, you know, as we've already said, having a new reserve pair and we don't know how they're going to settle in. So, you know, that's going to be key. Knockout Cup, I would like to think the lads are going to be fired up for that. 12 points, like I said earlier, hit them hard, hit them early, and, you know, who knows where that could lead us. That's got to be our best chance of success as far as the Bandits concerned. The Bullets, excuse me, the Bullets playoff, playoffs I think is more or less sort of there or thereabouts. However, as the lads have said on that front as well, need to stop dropping silly points at home, and you know, we need to maybe start picking up bigger wins against those playoff contenders.
Okay. Sorry, typical Lieutenant Colombo. One final question. Do you think that there's another team out there, possibly Newcastle, that has suffered the bad luck that we have? I can see many teams that have made huge advantages, like Leicester being able to use Jason Edwards.
Yeah,
Redcar. So yeah,
Plymouth have had been able to use guests for Eddie Kennett without him actually even turning a wheel.
Yeah,
for them. So it's how you interpret the rules, I guess, a little bit as well.
That's a big bone of contention as far as I'm concerned. This with Newcastle and with Plymouth, and then obviously Leicester with the Anders Row thing as well. But the rules is the rules, and you know they're not breaking any rules. But you know,
it is flawed.
They're perhaps being bent and flexed. That's the thing, isn't it? It's
a tough one for me. I don't like it, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, you know, it's right what you said with Plymouth. I think Kennett's done maybe 3 laps or something, and that was him. You know, and they've been able to bring in good guests every week, and Newcastle with Wilson Dean. You know, it's the rules though, and it is what it is. But Paul, going back to your question about luck, I don't think anybody's had the bad luck that the Bandits have had this season. We're losing Jai and we're losing Leon and Ty. You know,
we even got a timekeeper injured.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true. Shouldn't laugh, but that's ultimately true. That's, you know, it is, and I hope he's on the road to recovery. Certainly,
yeah, it's getting better.
Yeah, absolutely. Berwick legend. Him, Dick Barry, and Lawrence Heffel. Eh?
Well, I tell you, a question I've got for Graham and Steve, although I've got a fair idea what the answer may be, but just when you're talking a little bit of nostalgia, question to the two, well, and James as well, and yourself, the best Bandits team you've ever seen?
'89 has to take a
89
bit.
for me. 89 for me all day long. I've said this to you, James, loads of times.
91 was good, but it was a different time. 89 was just, it's talked about more, I think.
And it wasn't just the team, the result of that knockout cup and doing the double over pool, but it was also all the other fun stuff in between, because it was a fun season.
Yeah,
I tell you what, it cost me that much. I actually my wife divorced me at the end of that season.
I've just had a message from Lawrence Heppel, legend, leg end maybe.
But
Evening,
I don't know if you've obviously most of you have watched that video that Graham shot of the Berwick at pool in '89, and Mark and Walshy winning that last race, and the cheerleader at the end of it, everybody's shouting "War cry, war cry, war cry." That was actually my brother-in-law, Andy.
Alistair. Andy Lees.
Although me and Sonia, obviously we split up in '89, and she went on to do other things that were very interesting, which I won't go into just yet. But
tell us more, we're nosy buggers.
Basically, she left me for a pupil of mine, who then 7 years later turns up at my door and says, oh, "Hi,
bringing her
Paul,
back."
No. Richard says, she's done to me what she did to you 7 years ago. And I thought, well, Richard, obviously I've known you a long time. I no hard feelings there. I appreciate, your honesty in all of this, But yeah, it was Andy Lee's, her brother, that was the cheerleader, that did all the shouting. That was quite loud, obviously, from Leicester, but it transpired in future conversations with Richard that although the rest of the family were sort of bad mouthing me about how bad I was, Andy was the one that said, "No, I don't remember any of that. I got on fine with Paul, and
well,
so
Paul, To use an analogy of a dearly departed friend of James and I, his word, although it was applied to football, he said, "You can change your message, but you can't change your team."
No. And there's a very good friend of mine who knows Greg Blair down in Ancram, who says that if he was to lock his wife and his dog in the boot of the car and open it 2 hours later, he knows which one would be pleased to see him.
Also on that pool, on about war cries, on that pool video, I'll have to get it to you sometime. At the very end of it, you start a chant saying, "We have won, we have won," which is probably the most obvious thing you could say for the whole meeting.
Look, I just remember at the bar afterwards, everybody chipping in for a round of drinks for the Raiders.
Yeah, we did. Yeah,
and it must have cost us a fortune, because I tell you, Mark used to drink like a fish.
Oh, we couldn't have.
I remember Exeter after we knocked them out in the Knockout Cup. You remember you used to be able to drive onto the track.
Yeah,
at Exeter, the counter grade, round to the
Fourth Bend bar.
Yeah, that was brilliant. And I actually had Mark Courtney stretched out on the back seat, because the van and everything had gone ahead. And he said, "Are you staying longer?" "Oh, I'll come with you then. Just drop us off at whatever services where they'll be waiting for us. And that's what we did. That's what we did. But
I think that's why we're talking about the '89 team as being, for us, the best team we've seen. It wasn't just the team; it was the whole season and everything that went on in that season. I think that's what made it.
Do you think to that end, when people do compare '89, '91, but '91 was, because it was the first division, there was a lot more seriousness about it. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I think that was. Yeah.
I mean,
it was a lot more professional.
91, I always remember 91. and I say to a Berwick fan, make the most of this because it might never happen again. Oh no, we'll never get relegated. But we tried to get to every meeting that year because we thought this, even then, this can't last. You know,
a pipe dream.
It was. I mean, you signed the British champion. You know, God knows how much that cost him.
Well, was it rumoured at the time? Was it £30,000?
He bought him off Coventry, and then I think he sold him back to Bradford for the same money. I think we bought Richard Knight as well. I think Richard Knight was our rider as well.
Yeah.
No, Jimmy was
Kelvin does speak about his time with Berwick quite fondly, to be fair, in terms of the fans and the support they had. It was just obviously the business side was a
business
letdown.
side, yeah.
Yeah, but fair to say that obviously Tatum was kept to the back in 2002 by was it Frank Smart and
Robbie Kessler.
Robbie Kessler, yeah.
And there was Chrysler again.
Kelvin will be gutted. Kelvin will be gutted. Look at the Berwick fans. But Kelvin will be bucketed. I remember when I met Kelvin Tatum before the first Tatum Pearson thing, and I mentioned the 2002 force to him, and he said, "Of all the things you could ask me about that."
Yeah, given what went on previous.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously we've all seen footage of that. Would you say that Frank Smart and Robbie Kessler are team riding Kelvin to the back?
Yeah,
100%. 100%.
And what does that say about both Newport and Kessler was Sheffield, about their opinions on wanting to see Berwick rather than
Hull at the time?
That desire to see little old Berwick, not that old, but little Berwick, sort of.
I think it was more the Sky Sports thing.
Yeah.
I think it was. I think it was. I mean, to be fair, when you watch it back and you listen to the commentary on it, they set it up like perfectly for
Calvin missed the gate.
Yeah, like they set it up perfectly as this big fairy tale thing, which it was. It was just not the ending that was in the script. You know what I mean?
Never thought at the time before the tapes went up that Peter Collins was asked, "What do you think is going to happen here?" And I think Banger was off gate one. And he more or less said, "Look, there's your danger, man."
Yeah, and again, you talk about riders that were class. Paul Bentley, what a rider he was for Berwick. You know what I mean? Like at that time,
absolutely.
He could turn up at the meeting. He could win 5 races, and you wouldn't even know he'd been in the meeting. But by God, he was effective. You know what I mean? Like it was just that good. You know what I mean? Like I always thought he was excellent, and a rider that probably doesn't get spoken about enough when people mention some of the good riders that Berwick had over.
Hall of Fame member. Along with a man that was there on last night. There's another Hall of Fame there.
Meldrum. Yeah,
I spoke to him.
Yeah.
Yes, you did, right?
But you know what I said to him as well, but
yes,
probably got quite a good laugh.
but sorry. To go back to Banger, when him and Adrian first rode together, were they not 1 and 2? And was there not an incident whereby Banger didn't take kindly to Adrian riding where he didn't want him to, and apparently had him up by the throat, up against the pick wall, or has that story been embellished somewhat?
I don't know. I certainly couldn't answer that. What I do specifically remember was that as a pairing, Michael Makowski and Paul Bentley were a dynamite pairing for Berwick. They were
but Bentley and Ramel, they didn't complement each other on track because they both wanted to be in the same sort of place. Whereas Makowski would be quite happy. Well, not happy, but he could ride the inside better than what Banger could.
I think Adrian and Banger, the styles the riding style and the lines it took were very, very similar. Where Michael was, as you say, Marty, completely different, wasn't he?
He could pin it on the line and let Banger blast round the boards, and the two of them, but a brilliant pairing, really. To be fair, let's be honest, you know,
the best parents I've seen, you know, in my sort of time watching, certainly. When you watched the two of them, I thought they were great.
No, I seem to remember Ramel and Mogosi being quite an effective pairing around Shieldfield, certainly.
They were very effective, actually. Particularly, as you said, particularly around Shieldfield. He was another rider. Norbert Mogosi was he was quite underrated as well when he was at Berwick, I feel.
He's still going as well.
I know.
Must be a fair age now,
I'm
Steve.
sure he's in his 50s. He's got to be. He's got to be the same age as us, Graham.
Oh,
The Hungarian Hancock.
I'm not in my
Hungarian.
50s.
Oh, you're not quite yet, are you?
Dick Barry used to call him the well Hungarian. Remember that?
Remember, Steve, you will always be 5 months older than me.
Yeah. You reminded me of the last 40 years.
No. That's no point now.
Well, actually, I got the fours in 2012 for a 40th birthday present.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Those birthday presents go, that's a good one, like.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
You talk about like great times, and it's ground we've been over certainly on the show before, but you know that day out is probably one of the best days I've ever had in my life, and I'm pretty sure I don't even think I had a drop of alcohol that day. It was brilliant. It was just like, what a day, you know what I mean? What a day.
The fours are always a good day. The fours always
Peterborough,
fours. It's always been a good day.
Your Premier League Riders Championship at Sheffield, all these sort of days, magic. Absolutely brilliant days out. You know what I mean?
The fours for me has always been my favourite. Always, it has to be Peterborough, but that's always my favourite. Whether you win or whether you last or whatever, doesn't matter. It's always a good day.
It's usually a phenomenal day out. Like I know, it was
the 2-day one that they did a few years ago. I enjoyed that as well.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah,
it was a good weekend.
But I heard a few folk that went and said it was good. Like,
yeah, it was. It was a good weekend.
I filmed it.
That's right, you did.
Yeah.
How many meetings do you think you've actually filmed, Graham? In all seriousness, have you?
God knows, I haven't a clue. I have not got a clue.
200 years times 50 meetings a year, that's what.
God knows.
Because the reason I'm saying it is I sat down and worked out roughly how many races I think I'd seen since I started watching Speedway. And I lost count about 12,500. And that's over 30 years, so,
yeah,
you know.
I've filmed at a few tracks. For a few different people.
And Graham, you know, it wouldn't be a bad idea to promote yourself, because you've been invited to do the BSN.
I'm doing BSN on Saturday.
Yeah,
I did BSN on
loads of different tracks.
I've done BSN at Glasgow on Friday night past.
Yeah, and Newcastle.
Newcastle Sunday, last Sunday.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done two at Glasgow. Two at Glasgow, one at Newcastle.
I mean, obviously the people at BSN realise, you know, that they've got a quality guy that can actually go up there and you know, just film it, you know, because things like 89 at Berwick, at Poole.
I was crap.
but I mean, you were just a teenager, what, 17, 16, 17?
17,
yeah. I mean, for me, that 89. Not so much the Knockout Cup, because we lost by 4 points at Poole, but although it was absolutely fantastic. But for me, that meeting against Poole and to beat them on their own track, in front of their own fans, and for Sean Courtney to go waving to the crowd as he did at his last race, and just for them to need a 5-1, and you know, we could have just gone out and got a 4-2. No, Walshy and Courtney, they go out and get a 5-1. It's like we're rubbing your noses in it, you know.
We were at 52.
Yeah, you know, and it's like I'd only just started following Speedway just towards the back end of the 88 season, I never saw Mark Courtney get his 15 at Powder Hall. I've heard about it and I've seen footage of it. But it's like all my Christmases came very early, and it's been such a long time since that. 91, the Gold Cup, that was fantastic. I would, we would live that again, and then 2002, 2012, could 2022
10
prove
years
to be good? But my answer to my original question about, how do we see the season going? I want to see how all these other rivals of ours, both in the Premiership and the Championship, when the bad lucks, and I'm not wishing it on them, but when they have the kind of injury problems that we have, and their time will come. If their time is at the end of the season, I'm not going to be
end of the season.
Yeah, exactly. It's not what happens now, is it?
It's not about start, it's how you finish. So
yeah,
how it'll plan out, but it's tough because we're not. It's not like we're not used to the bad luck and the injuries. It's just that it happens every bloody year. You know what I mean? I think we lost the one guy in the team that was virtually impossible to replace at the crucial times, and then at the times you were then relying on your reserves doing the job, and for whatever reason it just didn't work out. Things like that.
Cast your mind back to 2003, I think it was. We were like well on the way to certainly be in the top sort of 2 or 3 in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And Makovsky, did he do knee ligament in the Bordonapis or something like that?
Certainly was a knee injury, certainly, yeah.
And it's all about the timing. It's always ever been about the timing, Yeah. And
that cost us that year.
Due the rub of the green.
We are.
Absolutely that.
Oh, we are, without a doubt. Without a doubt. But I blame Graham Hunter, because every time that Graham Hunter referees a Bandits meeting at Shieldfield, Jai gets injured. He admitted that last night. He says, thank God it's the Bullets tonight and Jai's not riding. So I'm blaming Graham Hunter.
He's to blame.
He's 100% to blame.
You still not got any aspirations to be a referee, Steve, or is that gone out the window now?
No, I couldn't.
They were chasing you, wasn't they?
Yeah.
I think it was more likely when you were at O2, it would have been easier, I think.
Yeah, it was. I couldn't do it now, just with the time. I don't know whether I want to either, to be honest with you, but it's a tough job without a doubt.
And Steve, from your vantage point up in the box. There's a gentleman stands on just underneath the ducket, but more towards the third bend, and he has been known to wear shirts that are a little bit gregarious, maybe. Or I'm just wondering if you can see them from the referee's box from the other side of the track.
You can see them from the moon. Never mind the referee.
I was hoping that was the answer you were going to say. I was hoping you were going to say.
Like I said on the gantry the other day, there's somewhere there's a deck chair without a cover.
You might get a shout out over the PA next Saturday night to cover the shirt that was dazzling the referee.
That's what Greg Blair said. That there would be an assistance from the referee that could the guy near the third bend please cover it with shirt because the riders are being dazzled. Unfortunately, I will not be at the meeting against Scunthorpe because I have a meeting to attend at Melrose, and then I'm off to Elston for a very eagerly anticipated, and I'm looking forward to a most enjoyable time next Saturday. So I'm going to have to watch the Speedway updates. And I think BSN are covering that one anyway, aren't they, Graham?
Yeah, they are, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you filming that one?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And who's the commentators? Do Marty and James get a day off?
Me and Brannan. Ian Brannell will be one of them. I don't know who the co-commentator will be with Ian.
Right. Okay.
Ian,
isn't it? But it's been different people recently, isn't it?
yeah. Well, Stuart Dixon was commentating on Friday night.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just I can't help thinking that probably at some point you're going to have to get Greg up to
We
do commentary.
We discussed this last night.
Aye.
Yeah.
Good. Because he would be.
He's going to guess for Marty. I think his average is about the same. I think it's about 7 or 8 pints.
That might be the closest I'll ever get to Greg.
But no, I'm looking forward to. I think on the second, who have Berwick got on the second? Is it that?
Bullets against the Lion Cubs in the knockout.
Yes,
Yeah.
and then the following week is
Your friends from Wimborne Road.
Pool, yeah, because I'll miss Pool from Berwick, see Deacon Blue.
Yeah,
So
I'm going to miss that as well. I'm actually gigging at Harbottle. If anybody knows where
the arse end of
Harbottle is.
nowhere, yeah.
Yes, yeah, I'm doing a gig at the Star Inn with my mate James Trigger Tate. He's named after Trigger from.
Well, let's hope on the 9th we're reading headlines that Super Bandits go ballistic, Pirates are atrocious.
Yes, absolutely, yes. I mean, the thing is, it's going to be interesting, as you say, on this coming Saturday against Scunthorpe. You know, Scunthorpe, they just narrowly beat Poole, didn't they?
Yeah.
45-44. You know, and I'm always reminded of the fact that James, when we did our very first live chat together, we had no idea how things were going to go, how they developed. But you know, the initial plan was to every couple of weeks to do like an update. You know, I mean, of the teams that at the top at the moment, you'd have to say Leicester look probably the strongest.
They've certainly laid down a marker by by beating Poole. I don't think anybody saw that coming. And do you know what? It was quite nice actually, because they were getting far too smug. So let's see somebody turn them over.
No, I can definitely see the Bandits going down there with our team. If we're firing on all cylinders, they will not fancy seeing us. No, I don't think any team will.
If we can get things right and get things moving again, I think we'll be back on track, as it were. It's just whether they can get back on track and recover from the 3 home defeats we've had. But as we've said, time will tell.
Yeah. But anyway, is it the 18th of July that we face Redcar in the Knockout Cup?
16.
That's going to be interesting. That's one I am looking forward to.
I will be 50 by then.
Yes.
By one day.
Does that mean you need to bring cake up the scaffolding?
And lots of it.
It's all right. The candles will blow themselves. It's that windy up there.
Blowing the cake away on Saturday night.
We'll get a stripogram like they had for Granty at his testimonial.
Oh my God! Yes, there is a photo of Granty with a champagne bottle. You know the one I mean, Steve.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Well, you've reminded me of something, and that was at the Black and Gold. I was chatting with Alan Uno Bendo Ferro. Ferro, yeah. And he was a good. He was. I remember early on when Kevin Doolan joined us. I think he'd started off at Bellevue, hadn't he?
Yeah.
And he hadn't quite made it with them, and so he came to Berwick. And I remember there was this. We had a caravan at Eyemouth at the the North.
Northburn.
Yeah, whatever the big caravan site was, we had a caravan there, and surprise, Eunice's my wife's uncle and auntie, they arrive up from Chesterfield, so we decide I decided that rather than going to the Driftwood, which was the bar, you know the big bar on the
Played in there a lot
Calvin
over
site.
the years. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So I says it's a Friday night. I know there's possibly a couple of Speedway riders down at the Grove. We'll go to the Grove. So drove them down there. Lo and behold, there was a guy on his stag do with this stripper there. Well, my uncle was like full of, like, when we came back, was full of these stories about how fantastic this was, and my wife was like, "You bloody knew there was going to be a..." I'm like, "No, I knew nothing about this whatsoever." And even to this day, she still thinks I knew that there was going to be a rather well-chested...
Brings a new meaning to a tactical ride.
It's good.
You have 2 minutes. But anyway.
Yes. I must admit, I am looking forward to going down to Birmingham at the beginning of... I think we've also got an away match at Oxford.
Yes, we will have. Yeah.
That will be interesting, won't it? That will be interesting, seeing as that we've got one of the Chargers riding for us against his team.
Yeah. He's been scoring well for them as well, but ultimately it might not count for much, admittedly, because we're all well too aware of the sort of, the gulf between the two leagues certainly is quite great. But do you know what? The lad will give it a go, I'm sure. So we can't ask any more than that.
No.
Yeah, I mean, well, certainly, I'm sure you guys can all remember that during lockdown we had a meeting from Berwick, but it was from Sheffield Park, and it was going to be a crowd allowed, and then it wasn't, and it was the under-21 qualifier.
Yeah,
live streamed it.
Live streamed, yeah.
Oh, that was absolutely fantastic racing. I mean, it was a wet track, but some of the times those under-21 boys were doing was like unbelievable, wasn't it?
That's the most bizarre experience, I think, of my announcing career, as announcing to an empty stadium.
Yeah,
because we did it as it was a meeting, wasn't it?
Yeah, you had to be done as it was a meeting with a crowd in, and it's the most bizarre thing in the world.
It's the only time we've interviewed riders with masks on.
Yeah.
The riders were wearing masks, and it was just unbelievable.
But I'm right in saying that some of the riding there by the riding by the under-21s was absolutely fantastic.
Oh, yeah,
and I mean, if you took the top 7 from that meeting and you made a Bandits team out of that,
Dan really not getting a track record that night.
Yeah,
he did.
Still stands, and nobody's really gotten near it, which is quite unbelievable, really.
If you're talking under 21s, what about with the world stuff coming to Sheffield Park?
I was going to say that's probably one of the best meetings I've ever seen in Sheffield.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that. And some of the names that were there, my God, that have all went on to achieve great things. So that's we've been spoiled, really. We've been spoiled.
Yeah, wow. An update from Mr. Heppel. I had to hold the umbrella over Granty's stripper when she walked off the track as it was raining. Oh, to be 24 again.
And I remember, it's on the video. Lawrence is walking up the track with a brolly, and Dick Barry says over the PA, "Lawrence is just wondering at the pits, wonder what he's going to do with her."
Do you know what, guys? It is 10 o'clock already.
God, already, jeez.
Wow, time flies.
You have listened to me having on for at least 2 hours. And you know what? We didn't. Well, in fairness to Greg, he's absolutely fantastic. But he's been well and worthily sort of covered, and guests have covered for his rides absolutely fantastically. But I do feel that it's time that we let you go and enjoy the rest of the evening, what's left of it. But I know for a fact that I think I'm right in saying that you would all quite happily just keep on talking about Speedway.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what we do. Isn't it?
Yeah.
It's another day.
I know. But
Has the show got a curfew, Paul?
it hasn't. No. But well, I mean, bizarrely, when I first started doing the videos that I did, it's always been about the Netflix documentary Making a Murderer, and bizarrely there was an idea put forward a few years back, which I was part of, which was to talk about making a murderer non-stop for 48 hours. Exactly. And what that involved was 4 of us hosting and talking for 4 hours, and then break for 4 hours, or like for the next 12 hours, and then come on again. And we actually did that. We did that. The next year we did it over eight hosts, and it's amazing, isn't it? The stuff you can talk about, the fun times of the Speedway, and
we'll get a holiday tomorrow to work. Is that what you're trying to say? We'll get a holiday request in at work tomorrow. Is that what you're trying to say?
No, no. But what started all off the idea of doing this marathon, as we called it, marathon, was some of the YouTubers. You see on StreamYard, you can actually stream live for up to 8 hours, and then it cuts you off. 8 hours is the maximum. So I'm looking forward to having you guys on for 8 hours.
To go.
Yeah.
Yeah, but has somebody got 50 pence for Steve for the lecky or what?
There we go.
That's better.
Ebenezer good in the corner there.
Remember, I flew back out petrol today. That took care of last night's wages from the karaoke, I'll tell you.
Oh, that was just getting the petrol to get there.
I know. Jeez, honestly.
Steve, did that work well, doing the Speedway and then dashing off for the karaoke?
It was perfect, to be honest with you, mate. It worked really, really well. I could do it again quite easily. It was because the meeting was finished in decent time, and I was set up and playing by 9:10. So
that's pretty good.
It was ideal, So it worked really well because I took the car and I just left it in the yard at the exchange because it's only over the road for the free trade. So it was handy, and I went and picked it up with the missus this morning. So it worked really well. Knackering, but it worked well.
Yeah.
So
long day.
Yeah, it was long.
A long night.
You've given me an idea now. We must have a karaoke in the black and gold, and we must choose a particular song that we're going to sing.
Anything but the Shadows, no problem.
Anything by the Shadows.
Yeah.
You could. Yeah, you know what you can do with that idea.
Surely it should be Spandau Ballet Gold.
Yes.
Or Sam Sparrow, Black and Gold.
Black and Gold, yes. But my favourite would be the Jam. Wish I could be like David Walsh. Graham, what would your be?
What, karaoke?
Yeah.
Don't know.
Sheila's got to be C.W. McCall, Convoy.
Yes. James, what are you going to go for?
Anything but the Shadows, tell you.
No, I'm not going to swear. I'm just going to say, would you like to think again?
If I was doing karaoke, honestly, I don't know.
Okay.
See,
well, that's good.
See, when I'm in the car, I'm a total rock star. It's when I get out of the car, close my eyes. So. And
Steve, when you're doing I've done karaoke myself, but I can from what I gather, when you're doing karaoke, in order to encourage people to come up, you sing a bit yourself. Is that right?
Yeah, I've got quite
Yeah.
a big set list, so
Yeah.
it depends on the crowd as well. It varies,
Sure.
but obviously, if you guys everybody knows about the half hour that's on here, and probably anybody that's watching as well. So that gets raked out every time I'm on the karaoke. So we'll like a bit of Jimmy Somerville.
All right. Yeah. Good stuff. I mean, come on. Let's come up with a track for Greg Blair. What would we do for him? A bit of Jimmy Shand.
Well, Bluebell Polka or something.
Yeah. That's an instrumental. But I see him as being like a bit of a rapper. I reckon he could do
Crazy Gnarls Barkley.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Or even Macklemore and Thrift Shop. I'd love to hear him doing that. Go for it.
I don't know about his singing, Kiss, Crazy Nights.
We've got plenty of footage of him dancing to some stuff at the end of season. I was looking at that on my phone the day actually. So that was interesting, waving his trophies about and all sorts. Had to be seen to be believed.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'm sure Greg
James
could come up with a great suggestion himself.
I'm sure he would.
Well, James, I'm going to give you the last word to close things up for us and thank everybody.
Yeah, well, I can only thank everybody for watching, and thanks to yourself and Marty as always, and thanks very much for Stephen and Graham for joining us. I hope you can maybe join us again sometime further down the road.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah, without a doubt. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And I just want to say hello I know Stevie Morgan is watching us from Speedway UK. So I said I would mention the group. Obviously, I'm one of the admins on there. There's 4 of us. So just say hello and hope a few group members are watching. And hello, Steve. Hopefully, Lily's watching as well, and Scarlett. The 4 of us run the group. So if you're not on it, I think we're all on it, aren't we? Get on it and get sharing everything. And it's a really good group. A lot of members on there now. So a lot of good content. So feel free to share everything away on there. And hello to everybody from Speedway UK that's watching.
Yeah, thanks.